By the final stages of World War II, the Soviet military was an unstoppable juggernaut, rolling across Eastern Europe and absorbing everything in its path. Yet Finland remained an outlier. It shared a massive, exposed border with the USSR, a border that seemed to invite the same fate as the occupied Baltic states to the south. Joseph Stalin's ambitions were clear. He intended to reclaim the full territory of the former Russian Empire, and that included Finland. By 1944, the Red Army had broken the Finnish defensive lines. On paper, they possessed the manpower and the momentum to march all the way to Helsinki. But at the very moment of a potential military breakthrough, the Soviet advance stopped. Friction between the two nations had been constant since 1917, when Finland used the chaos of the Russian Revolution to break away from Moscow's control. When Stalin attempted to retake the territory in 1939, the invasion turned into a disaster. The Finnish military used the dense forests and sub-zero temperatures to ambush and stall massive Soviet tank columns in the snow. In 1941, the Finns struck back to reclaim their land, leading to 3 more years of brutal, close-quarters trench warfare that drained Soviet resources. By 1944, Stalin could see the arithmetic of a total conquest. While his massive army could likely win, it would require throwing hundreds of thousands of men into a prolonged, grinding campaign across some of the most difficult terrain on the continent. With the primary struggle against Nazi Germany entering its final critical stage, Stalin decided those soldiers and tanks were more valuable in the race for Berlin than in the Finnish woods. There was also a calculation involving the neighbors. To the west lay Sweden, a neutral power with a formidable military of its own. If the USSR annexed Finland, it would suddenly share a direct 1,000-mile border with the Swedes. Moscow calculated that this expansion would panic the Swedish government, effectively ending their historical stance of neutrality overnight. A threatened Sweden would likely seek protection by joining the emerging NATO alliance, bringing a permanent Western military presence right to the Soviet Union's new northwestern frontier. Stalin realized that holding Helsinki wasn't worth the risk of inviting a hostile military alliance onto his immediate doorstep. Moscow pivoted from military conquest to a different kind of control. In 1948, the Soviets proposed the Friendship, Cooperation, and Mutual Assistance Treaty. The terms were harsh. Finland had to cede strategic northern and eastern territories and pay massive economic reparations to the Soviet Union. The treaty also demanded political obedience. Finland was banned from joining NATO and was expected to align its foreign policy with Moscow's interests. This arrangement gave Stalin his primary objective, a secure, compliant buffer zone, achieved through political leverage rather than a full-scale occupation. Western observers coined a term for this unique arrangement, Finlandization. It described a survival strategy where a small country keeps its domestic democracy and freedom by surrendering its independence in world affairs to a powerful neighbor. While other nations in the Soviet sphere were subjected to direct military occupation and puppet regimes, Finland maintained its own parliament, its own laws, and its own economy. This compromise was a heavy burden. It cost the Finns their land, their money, and their ability to speak freely on the international stage. But the policy worked. Finland outlasted the Cold War as a prosperous democracy, eventually joining the West on its own terms after the Soviet Union collapsed. The USSR didn't annex Finland because the price of a total invasion was too high, the geopolitical risks were too great, and Finlandization provided the Kremlin with the security it demanded without the ongoing costs of a war.